Welcome back to Deep in the Heart of Texas 4-H, the official Texas 4-H podcast. This is episode 26, and Kaden and I have a special episode for you guys today, don't we, Kaden?
Yes, ma'am, we do.
Well, Kaden, why don't you go ahead and tell everybody who you are?
All right, everybody. So today we have with us Miss McKenna Bush from Texas Farm Bureau. She is going to be here talking to us about the Farm Bureau side of agriculture and, her experience in 4-H and things she's done in the past.
Awesome. And Kaden, who are you?
So I'm Kaden Gordillo. I'm from District 4 in 4-H. I've been in 4-H for about 8 years now, and I'm currently on the Texas 4-H Council, serving around the state, trying to help out wherever I can. I love doing different things, with animals. I do a lot of natural resources stuff in 4-H. I also love public speaking, stuff like that.
Cool. McKenna, how are you today?
I am doing great. Just coming off vacation from Florida last week, so you can't
Ooh,
ask for a better time to get me, I guess.
there you go. She's fresh. Where were
I'm
you in
fresh.
Florida?
I was in the iconic 30A area, so we stayed in Rosemary Beach. It was great. Would recommend.
That sounds amazing.
It's great. And I always say go after Labor Day because there's like no one there. So it's the perfect time to go.
Good point. I like that plan. Cool. Well, McKenna's fresh from vacation and I'm assuming has been catching up in the office all day because that's what we have to do after we're on
Yes.
vacation. What have you been up to today, Caden?
Today, I was just, at school trying to get through my classes. And then I also, was tending to my animals this morning, working on stuff because the show season's starting up. So just getting them ready to show. I have a bunch of rabbits that I have to groom every single day. So just working towards that.
Are you going to be at Extravaganza next weekend?
Yes, ma'am, I am. I'm going to be at Extravaganza with another state council member, and we're going to be helping out there behind the scenes.
Sweet. Sounds awesome. Well, yeah, Caden kind of already introduced what we're going to be talking about today. So, McKenna, again, we really appreciate you spending some time with us, and I'm excited to kind of pick your brain and hopefully, 4-Hers, both members, parents, volunteers, employees, whoever it may be, can gain something from the next, hour and a half or so.
I did say I was long-winded. Y'all buckle up. I'm just kidding.
All right, Caden, I'll turn it over to you.
Yes, ma'am. So the first thing we want to ask you, Miss McKenna, is we want you to tell us about, your experience in 4-H and FFA while you're growing up. So things like what you did, how long you remember, things like that.
Yeah. So I'm kind of ashamed to say, Kaden, that I was not the most involved 4-Her or involved in 4-H. However, I do have to give a shout out to Armstrong County, specifically Leticia Redwine. She's now retired, has been retired for a while now, but I did participate in 4-H through Armstrong County my eighth grade freshman year. And my experience in 4-H and with Mrs. Redwine was certainly foundational in my understanding of agriculture, my understanding of youth programming, my understanding of rural life, and just everything that AgriLife Extension has to offer outside of agriculture, whether that's FCS or robotics, like name, kind of your project area. Um, Kind of understanding everything that 4-H brings to the table for students. I will tell you, my kiddos will be involved in 4-H from the time that they're able to in third grade or 9 years old. And so I certainly see the value in 4-H and reaped the benefits of being in 4-H, even though it wasn't as long as maybe we would have all wished for. But I did what is now known as education presentation, was the contest that I did. Um, I think a lot of people know, but if you don't know, I did not have the opportunity to show livestock through 4-H or FFA. It just wasn't something that my family could afford financially. So, pretty much anything with public speaking, leadership development attached to it was more kind of my wheelhouse area and what I was involved in. And then our Armstrong County was a really active county. So, going to club meetings, the pledge is something that always comes to mind. All standing up together and saying that in our like barn in Armstrong County in Claude, America, are some fond memories that come to mind. And some folks that I met through going to Roundup, in my club, in Armstrong County and the surrounding counties in the Panhandle are people that I still keep up with. Some of my very best friends, such as Madeline Kiner, state council representative in her time, recent for under 40 nominee through the Texas 4-H Foundation, are some people that I'm really close to. So I like to say that I certainly respect what 4-H brings to the table. And we, as Texas Farm Bureau, certainly recognize the value and opportunities that Texas 4-H provides in growing the next generation of agriculturalists and agricultural adjacent leaders. So that's all about me and my membership.
So while you were in, 4-H or FFA and everything you really did when you were younger in agriculture, what is the most valuable thing that you learned when you were younger, something that really helped you a lot now in your career with Texas Farm Bureau, being, a youth coordinator and being able to work with all those youth. So what's something that's just really valuable that you want to pass along to other people that might be interested in your field?
Yeah. A lot of people ask, like, how do I get your job or how do I do a job like yours? And it's a really hard question because my job doesn't even exist in most other state farm bureaus. But I always tell people there's opportunities with, livestock shows or county fairs or state fairs or breed associations that have my type of position. Duties, if you will. It might not be called youth outreach coordinator, but they do a lot of the same things that I get to do in my position. And I think what I really learned in my time in 4-H and FFA and in college is really how to put an event or a program together, as an officer, whether that's state council, district, or club officer. Um, you're having to host events. And of course, you have support from your extension agents and your club leaders and your fellow officers. But like the logistics behind it, that is a formative period of how do you piece that together? And okay, what if a budget's involved or, working with other people, scheduling with other people? If you have multiple people working on an agenda, making sure you all meet up at the end and you have a complete program or a complete event put together. And so that foundational experience was something that I certainly took away from my time in 4-H and that I use every day. Was using multiple times today on different programs and events that we have coming up. So I think that is something that I really took away that's like very practical. I think kind of 30,000 foot view, it really laid the foundation of my understanding of agriculture, more importantly, my understanding of production agriculture, and having the opportunity to interact with folks that produce our food, fiber, and fuel, realizing that those folks live down the road from us, and that they go out to their operation, a couple miles from the main road that we're traveling on in Claude, America, to produce our cattle that become a part of our food system, to grow crops that feed the cattle, or, go into making bread or, name your kind of cereal grain item and just understanding that it's close to home. It's the people that are involved in our communities that are our school board members, our extension agents, our city council representatives, our PTA presidents, name the person that's kind of integral in the community. There's a high likelihood that they might also be an agricultural producer, especially in a rural community. And so just making those connections and my foundational understanding of agriculture was really beneficial and really important. And then through, growing up in the high school years and then into college and graduate school and then post grad in my position, being able to leverage those connections and, oh yeah, I had your parent as a 4-H'er, or, yeah, so and so that you went to school with. Well, I know them because they coached the meets team in my county when they lived where you're living now. Just those fun connections, networking is something else that has certainly helped me in my career.
Caden might be planning to ask this later, so I'm sorry if I'm interrupting, but McKenna, what is your day to day?
That's also a difficult question because it changes so often. For example, today, very much so is playing catch up on emails, task items that I needed to follow up on coming off of vacation. Wednesday, we'll leave to go set up for one of our Student Success Series events in Abilene. We'll host that event Thursday. Friday, I'm going to be doing some I'll either be on PTO or working remote, TBD. Again, just some like desk work type stuff. Monday, we have another one of those Jumpstart Activate Student Success Series events in Lubbock that we're setting up for on Sunday. And it just kind of changes throughout the year. In the spring and fall, very event focused with Student Success Series, which is a program that spans 8th through 12th grade, and now has all in-person events for all 5 grade levels. To in kind of November, December, I'm scheduling all of our dates for 2026. I'm doing what groundwork I can in the event planning and logistics areas for those 2026 events in the end of 2025 to kind of December to March of each year is scholarship season. So it's a lot of answering phone calls, answering emails, doing back end finagling in our system that we house our scholarship applications, getting those judged. And then aside from all of that, working with our county leaders on their county youth ambassador programs that they have, answering general questions from county leaders or folks that are, sharing about our programs at meetings, etc. Um, it just, I don't think I've ever had a day that looks the same, except when I'm doing an event that has the same agenda. And then
Yeah.
that may be, 12 out of my however many working days a year that looks very similar, but is still very different because the kiddos that are at the event are different. They're going
Mhm.
to want to explore different areas within our agenda. Our site visits for some of our events are different. So truly, no day looks the same, but I wouldn't have it any other way.
Nice.
So, with your day-to-day job, Texas Farm Bureau is, such just a big part of agriculture that a lot of youth don't even really know a lot about, especially when you're younger, before you're, a senior, in high school. So, just to explain to everyone listening, can you explain, everything with Farm Bureau, everything that they do in the behind the scenes, everything that they really help out with whenever youth are showing their animals and, you know, getting involved in agriculture?
Yeah, absolutely. And this may be one of those answers that kind of gets long-winded. So, first and foremost, from a 30,000-foot view, Texas Farm Bureau is a nonprofit membership-based organization. We're classified as a 501c5 nonprofit organization, which if you look it up in the IRX tax code, we're an agriculture slash horticulture organization, I think is what it states. It's different from a 501c3 in that we can use funds from membership dues for lobbying and advocacy efforts. And we'll get to that part in just a second. But that 501c5 distinction allows us to do that. So when you become a member of Texas Farm Bureau, much like when you are a member of 4-H or FFA, you are a member, one membership due, $45 is the kind of middle range. So that one membership fee covers the entire family. So we call our members member families. And dependents can be on that membership under the parent or guardian until age 26. When you pay that membership, you're paying membership to be a part of your county farm bureau, your state farm bureau, which in our case is Texas Farm Bureau, and then our national farm bureau, which is the American Farm Bureau Federation. You'll also often hear it referred to as AFBF. Across the nation, each state has a county farm bureau, a state farm bureau. They have county farm bureaus, or in Louisiana, parish farm bureaus. And then we also have a territory farm bureau in Puerto Rico. So all 50 states and Puerto Rico have state, quote, farm bureaus. And then the same way Texas is set up, it is a grassroots membership organization. So everything that we ultimately do here in the state office, whether that's legislative advocacy, programming like Student Success Series, scholarships, educational outreach in the classroom, name the program, it all started at the grassroots level, meaning the county membership level. So, Kaden, if you have an experience with your rabbits and you're like, your neighbor is upset that the rabbits just smell and they don't like seeing you groom the rabbits, and they go to the HOA or the city council or whatever and they complain about it and it impacts your ability to show and raise your rabbits, That's an example of an issue that Texas Farm Bureau got involved in. Not to that level, but to the level of livestock procreating, hay baling, a city mowed down someone's hayfield because the grass was taller than the allowed limit by the city ordinance. That
That
those
really
are things.
happened?
It really happened. Those are things that members at the county level were like, whoa, like this is going to have major impacts on production agriculture if we don't address it. Those two examples were addressed by the Right to Farm bill, which I guess 2 Novembers ago now was on the constitutional ballot in the state of Texas and passed. So it is now enshrined in the Texas Constitution the right to farm and ranch and produce in multiple ways agricultural food, fiber, and fuel. At the end of the day, it's all about those grassroots members coming together and having a voice for agriculture and a voice for rural Texas. And so their needs are ultimately what we address. Going back to that 501c5 designation and our ability to advocate in the legislative arena, going back more specifically to your question, Kaden, of what all does Farm Bureau do? We do programming. So the division I work in, Ag in the Classroom, youth programs, scholarships, leader development for 18 to 35-year-olds, outreach to urban communities and areas in the state of Texas. We have a whole other division called the Government Affairs Division that exclusively handles legislative matters, and Ag Fund, which is our PAC, which is a political action committee. So all of our priority issues that again are set by our county leaders are things that our staff members who are registered lobbyists go in Austin and Washington, D.C. and advocate for. It's resulted in a lot of really fruitful relationships on both sides of the aisle, Democrat, Republican, to get things like right to farm passed in Texas, to push for funding for things like the sterile fly facility, to address the New World screwworm, to have relationships with USDA in Washington, D.C., and have those relationships and be able to go to the leaders of those entities and say, this is what our farmers and ranchers need to continue to provide the most abundant and affordable supply of food, fiber, and fuel. Here's how you can help us do that. Or here is a story. Here is an example from a real farmer or rancher. On the county level, you mentioned county level involvement. Our county farm bureaus, more often than not, provide add-ons to livestock show projects each year to all county farm bureau members. So again, you're a member of your county farm bureau, your state farm bureau, AFBF. Um, like I mentioned earlier, these are folks that are on your school board, a part of PTA, might even be your ag science teacher or your extension agent. They're folks that are involved in the community in those roles or as production agriculturalists. And they have a passion for growing the next generation of agricultural leaders and producers. And that is just one of the many ways that our county farm bureaus give back to their communities and their 4-H clubs across the state.
Yeah, I just wanted to take a second and just say that for anyone listening at home right now, if you ever go to, a college and, trade show, or if you ever go to even just like a place where there's, booths to go talk to, you're gonna find a Texas Farm Bureau booth, and they're just the nicest people to talk to. They're always so, educational. They care about, making like, greeting you and, getting to know you first and then talking to you about what Farm Bureau is, being really helpful with you. They're just overall just really nice people. So for our next question, you kind of already talked about this a little bit with, farmbureau.org, but where are some places where people can, learn more about how Farm Bureau works, where the opportunities are that are associated with it? So like how to, find places across the state, people at their county level, for example, like you talked about, how can they find, people to talk to? Um,
Great question. I always like to say if you can envision in your mind the red, white, and blue star and Texas Farm Bureau, often Texas Farm Bureau insurance sign in your community, whether that's your hometown or somewhere in your county, that's your county Farm Bureau office. And so I always encourage students, if you have a chance to stop by and say, hey, I'm Kaden. Chatted with McKenna the other day. She really encouraged me to come by and say hi. would love the opportunity to sit in on the next County Farm Bureau board meeting, to ask the County Farm Bureau president to come and speak at an upcoming 4-H club meeting, um, whatever the ask may be, stop by that office and start making that connection. Like I mentioned earlier, the County Farm Bureau boards want to get to know y'all. They want to have you be a part of things like County Farm Bureau Youth Ambassador programs to grow the next generation of leadership that's going to one day sit in their seat. So definitely stop by. And that is a really great way to start forming that relationship with your County Farm Bureau board. At the state level, you mentioned texasfarmbureau.org. If you go there and go to our youth opportunities page, you'll see all of the youth programs that are available, including Student Success Series, which is a program for 8th through 12th graders. It would take way too long to explain what all we do and the fun that we have in that program, but you can go through it every year. If you jump in at 11th grade, that's great. If you're only there for 12th grade, awesome. If you go through all 4 programs, all 5 years that you're eligible, even better. That primes you up really nicely, again, to connect back with that County Farm Bureau through some of the functions of Student Success Series, but also for scholarship applications through your County Farm Bureau your senior year, through Texas Farm Bureau. We have 2 grant programs, Clover Cash Grant and Ag Mech Grant. Clover Cash Grant in particular is for club leaders, extension agents, district specialists, and state program leaders. The parameters are really a program or opportunity that provides students who wouldn't otherwise have the opportunity a chance to learn about where their food, fiber, and fuel comes from. And so that's something that students involved in 4-H can help brainstorm and work with their club leader, their extension agent, or their district specialist to come up with a grant program or a program to be funded by the grant and apply for that. We also, I mentioned scholarship, but at the state level, we award over $500,000 each year at the high school, collegiate, and vet school level. We also, the county farm bureaus across the state collectively award over $680,000 in scholarships. And y'all, if you hear nothing else that I say today, meet your county farm bureau board, ask them when their scholarship application is available, apply for the scholarship, please. There are county farm bureaus every year, multiple, that have scholarship money left in the bank because they do not have enough students apply. Beyond that, I mean, getting involved in your county farm bureau, if the legislative thing is really interesting to you, as a farm bureau member, you can be involved in that grassroots process. Go to your county farm bureau convention, go to the district policy development meetings, come to Texas Farm Bureau annual meeting. We have collegiate farm bureau at 8 universities across the state of Texas with a host of other free opportunities to be involved. By the way, I failed to mention, Student Success Series is free to attend. All you got to do is get yourself there. We usually provide a meal. You get a t-shirt, get some swag. We brand you up with the TFB logo, but it's free. And that's another thing that we are able to do because of those membership dues that come from our members is provide free programming, free resources, free opportunities for folks to grow and learn in agriculture.
So Miss McKenna, you another thing that you also talk about is being able to brand yourself, getting your professional brand out there. So how can we, where we are right now, even as a junior or an intermediate, how can we start branding ourselves and getting us out there to achieve that and being able to set up a nice public image of us for us to have for the rest of our careers.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm glad that this is something that y'all's generation and that state council this year is really emphasizing. And I know you have heard me talk about this, Kaden, but it's never too early to start curating a strong personal and professional brand. And they're often intertwined, right? Because as much as we would like to separate our personal lives from our professional lives, it's just not realistic and they leak into each other. So your personal brand becomes your professional brand and vice versa. I think something that I see a lot of 4-Hers do really well is their Instagram presence. y'all, especially like your generation in particular, is really great about lifting each other up, celebrating the wins, no matter how small or big, and just letting the world know the cool things that you're doing, how you're doing them, why you're doing them. And if not, just inviting people along for the journey, inviting them to be a part of it too. I think that speaks volumes to an individual's character and what they value just by doing that. They say a picture's worth 1,000 words, and I say your actions are worth even more than that. And when you combine those two things together with social media presence, I know a lot about you just by looking at your social media if I don't know you, by the way that you interact and
Mhm.
share about what you're doing, who you're doing it with, why you're doing it, inviting people along, etc. Some specific action items I would encourage. And I know a lot of people aren't on social media, whether that is a decision you've made with your parents or it's just not something that you're interested in. That's cool. Good for you. You probably have a lot of free time to do more productive things
Yeah.
than scroll on social media. So there is no shame in that. You can still curate a strong personal and professional brand by doing all those things we just talked about on social media in person. So maybe it's you give your friend a card when you know that they, had a win at the jackpot, or they did, they followed through with doing a competition, or they, made it to the cross country meet that they just really didn't know if they were going to make it to. Whatever, the scenario may be, just doing that stuff that you do on social media in person. And still, the perception that's garnered of you is, man, that person's always celebrating people and like celebrating the wins and the losses and, everything in between. And you create that same brand, if you will, in person too, even if you're not on social media. Now, going back to social media, definitely encourage you to have an Instagram. That is where I would say most millennials, Gen Z, and Gen Alpha is. I'm cool with not having a TikTok. I have like a ghost profile. Like I don't post, but I definitely consume.
Yeah.
So if that's a thing you want to dabble in, cool. You can use a lot of the same content from Instagram on TikTok in terms of like reels into a TikTok, etc. Highly encourage, and again, discuss with your parents, all those things. LinkedIn. LinkedIn is a really great place to understand more about career paths that you're interested in, or majors that you're interested in, universities or colleges that you want to attend. Um, there's a lot of opportunity to connect with people and entities to learn more about them. A lot of universities and recruiters from like a collegiate level use that platform to recruit students. So that could mean scholarships, fellowships, opportunities, research programs, name your kind of interest. But it's also just a really great place to log all of the stuff that you do. And I don't mean like record book log, but I was a district, council officer. I served on state council. I was this club leader. I volunteered at these functions through my association with 4-H. And then you just have it there. And not all of it has to be public because there will come a time where the stuff you did at this age and stage in life is not relevant. So we can hide that, but you still have access to it. And then the same thing in college. There'll come a time in your professional career where you're going to take some stuff from college away because it's not necessary for others to see anymore. Um, but it creates a really nice kind of running, easy to log and tab and go and check and share with folks and put on resumes. Y'all, if a high schooler handed me a resume with their LinkedIn profile attached in it, or like sent me a PDF with it attached, I would be floored. I would be like, hired on the spot. Like, yes, it shows a lot of initiative. It shows that you're business savvy, that you at least have an inkling of where folks in the professional space are. And it also just shows a lot of like maturity for an individual to be in that space at the age that you are. So that's like definitely an action item that I would say consider. Again, discuss with your parent, guardian. I'm not telling you to like go rogue if they're not wanting you to like be in a space like that yet. But definitely like your junior, senior year of high school, I would highly, highly recommend putting a LinkedIn together. And again, including it on resumes. It gives you a landing space to have everything, whether it's 4-H, FFA, sports, one act play, UIL. It gives you one place to kind of reference it as you're filling out college applications, scholarship applications, etc., instead of going to two different record books and however many pieces of paper laying around. And there's a lot of cool functions and features that come with it as well. But I would say those two things in particular are kind of my thoughts on personal and professional branding.
So, just to not do a quick shameless plug or anything, but this year, especially for our state council, we started doing, fan accounts of each other, posting about each other's successes, every single small victory, getting all that together. So definitely, like we've been this year, especially trying to push all that stuff out. LinkedIn also, when I first heard about it, I wasn't really sure because I was like 12, but I started one up, and a lot of people have complimented me on that. So those are definitely some great things that I've seen that really work really well for branding. But we only have a few minutes left, so I just wanted to really quickly ask you, just to, wrap things up, what advice would you give to any current 4-H member that really looks up to you?
I will say first, where can we follow 4-H Council?
You can follow on Facebook and Instagram at Texas 4-H Council. And then Texas 4-H Program is also on Facebook and Instagram at Texas
Mhm.
4-H.
Love it. I will say I've been loving the graphics y'all have been posting lately, and I love the ride along karaoke videos.
Oh,
So,
thank you. Okay, all of the kids like worked so with me on that, but I
I
think they're so
mean,
cute.
maybe it's because we're the same age and we're like, yeah, that's cool. And they think it's not cool, but I thought it
Mhm.
was cool. So I don't
Thank
know.
Not to
you.
brag, I
For
sang
what
Let It
it's
Go, so I think it was pretty cool.
Yeah,
love.
y'all's was good,
Yeah.
Kaden. Y'all's was really
For
good.
what it's worth, I thought it was cool. It might not be worth much, but you have a fan over here, the Texas 4-H Council on
Thank you.
Instagram. I just wanted to make sure we knew where we could follow. My advice, I have 3 Bible verses that are written on sticky notes, and they're on my desktop, so I look at them every day. And this is one that someone said to me in a mentor meeting, and it really stuck with me. And I was like, I need to write that down and look at it every day. So the verse is Proverbs 18:15. The heart of the discerning acquires knowledge, for the ears of the wise seek it out. And as a certified yapper, I needed to hear that.
That's so
um,
good. It's so good.
and that's one that I really love. I'll go ahead and read the other two. These will be my words of wisdom, aka Jesus's words of wisdom. These two are from Ephesians. So the first one is from Ephesians 4:29. Do not let any unwholesome talk come from your mouths, but only what is helpful for building others up according to their needs, that it may benefit those who listen. And then Ephesians 5:1, imitate God in everything you do because you are his dear children. Another one of my favorite verses is Colossians 3:23, which is work at it with all of your heart as working for the Lord and not for men. And I think the kind of overarching advice maybe is remember that everything we do is for the big man upstairs and for the glory of his kingdom. It's not for us to look cool and have great success and flash our names all over the place. Everything that we do should ultimately lead people to Him. And if we're not doing that, we should probably reevaluate and reassess. Um, so, yeah, that's my
Amen.
advice.
Amen.
Didn't know y'all were coming to church, did you?
Woo!
Well, thank you very much, Miss McKenna, for being here with us today and being able to speak to us about all this stuff.
Absolutely. Thank y'all so much for having me. This was a blast, and I hope I get to see all of the listeners around soon, whether it's at State Roundup, FFA Convention, 4-H Ambassador Advocacy Training, or anything in between. If you see me around, don't be afraid to say hello. And shameless plug to follow me on Instagram for updates on all things youth programming, whether that's student success series, scholarships, etc. You can follow me on Instagram at Bush McKenna, McKenna. um,
I know.
on Instagram as well. But I am engaged. So if you're listening to this like a year from now, McKenna Hunter is the name in approximately a year-ish from now. So anywho, you can find me.
Woohoo! Love
Call me,
that.
beat me. Yeah.
Congratulations on the engagement.
Thanks.
Congratulations.
All
Thanks.
right. Well, yeah, like Kaden said, we sure appreciate it, McKenna. This has been so worthwhile for anyone who's going to listen. So, just a real quick wrap up here with a few dates for everyone to remember. We've got National 4-H Week coming up in October, so make your plans now to celebrate accordingly. We also have One Day 4-H, October 11th. So, start planning how you and your club, your community, will do that community service project and really make an impact this year. And then, Kaden, we've got our Spark Light Up Luau registration open for all those junior and intermediate 4-Hers. Texas 4-H Council is going to be leading them in some fun activities November 8th through 10th at the 4-H Center. So, Kaden, it's going to be a blast, right?
Yes, it will. It's gonna be a really fun weekend. You guys are gonna learn a lot about leadership and have fun while doing it.
While you wear glow sticks and hula skirts.
Hmm.
All right. Well, that's all we have today. Thanks again, Kaden and McKenna.
Thanks. Bye, y'all.
Thank you very much.
We'll see y'all next time.